All right. Okay. Welcome to week 4 of Coding Club. We are much smaller than our original 100 plus students, but it's cool. I think lots of people are doing the recordings because it is such a busy time of year. Who's carving pumpkins? We've got a pumpkin contest every year here at Glasgow. I'm still sore. One year I carved a Thatcher illusion pumpkin, like a pumpkin face, but upside down, and was a Thatcher illusion when you looked at it. And it did not even make the semifinals because the student pumpkins are so amazing. Let's see, pop the book link in, and if you are new and haven't been following along and haven't been looking at the recordings, the thing that you need to do to catch up for today is go to this link, which I will actually just go to here and show you what it looks like. Pop over here, makes it a little bigger. All right, so if you go to demo package, click on code and just download the zip file, unless you are a Git master and you know how to do this with a pull request or by forking it or whatever. If that, do it. But if not, download the zip file, open it up, and then open that project in our studio, and then you're all set with everything that we're going to be doing today. If you have been following along, then you're already caught up. All right, so I want to get everybody into chapter 4 of the book, and then open up your demo package. It might be a short lesson today. It depends on if people have problems with this and how many questions you have, but it's a relatively straightforward thing to document functions. So the first thing you gotta do to document a function is go find your function. All your functions should live inside the R folder when you're creating a package. So we're gonna open up the R folder, and you should have self-res at, that's our documentation. You can open it up here. This was our documentation for the built-in data set. We've already done that. We're going to add similar documentation to our functions and make these a little bit smaller. There we go. Okay, so we've got 2 functions that we've defined in this same file. There's APA pair. And this is our function, remember, to do a paired samples t-test on 2 different vectors, x and y, and spit out the APA style text, results text that you would have. So this sort of template, but with all the calculated values put in. So you need to say, what was the DB, what was level 1, what was level 2. Right, so we want to document this. We've also got a round 0 function. I'm going to leave that as an exercise for you to document after we're done with this. So the first thing we need to do is put your cursor literally anywhere in this function. Don't highlight things, just put the cursor in, and then you can go to the code menu. And it always takes me forever to find this in the code menu, but scan for roxygen. We're going to insert roxygen skeleton. And it should just automatically do this. So let me know if that didn't happen for you. I'll give you a minute for everybody to get caught up here. So actually, you can pop into the chat like a thumbs up or worked if it did work, and need help if it didn't work. Okay, so repeating that, you put your cursor anywhere in the function, go to the code menu, and find insert roxygen skeleton. So on a Mac, the keyboard shortcut is Shift Option Command R. Something different, I'm sure, on a PC. This is one of those where you're not going to use it enough to memorize the keyboard shortcut, so just know it's under code. All right. So, okay, that's worked for at least 4 people. I'm not sure how many people are following along versus just watching and absorbing and trying it later on their own. So I'll give it another minute, see if there's anybody who's had problems. Okay, I'm looking over here because my chat's over on this other screen. Oh, I've got windows today, so natural light again. Cool. Okay, so roxygen skeleton. What is this? You can also just type this if you want to. Like if the insert, but the insert's so useful in getting everything formatted exactly right. So with a roxygen skeleton, we need a title for our function. So this is a title. It's meant to be in like title case. So what we're doing here is an APA text for paired samples t-tests. Okay, so we just give it a title, and then you skip a line. So roxygen documentation starts with this hash, and then a single quote, not a backtick, a single, like a straight quote, and then a space. And then you can put the documentation. This is a signal later to DevTools or the roxygen package that this needs to be turned into documentation. And I'll show you how to do that later. It's just a one-line function. All right, so make sure that that happens every once in a while. I'm not quite sure why. Like RStudio stops realizing that this is roxygen documentation. And when you hit enter, it doesn't automatically create the hash and the single quote in the space. And you actually have to type them in or copy it from below. But seems to be working today. Okay, so you skip a line and then you can start writing a description of your function. Actually, let's first pop into the console and let's have a look at some documentation. So type question mark mean or any function, your favorite function, and that should pop up the help for that function in your help pane. So pop over here into the help pane, and what we see is here's that title, and then there's a description. This usage bit is automatically created for you, and then we're going to do arguments in a minute. Actually, what might be more useful here is to look up the help for t.test, since we have some arguments in common with the t-test. Okay, so let's write this description. So a sentence about what does your function do? Think about the perspective of users of your package who'll be using this function. What do they need to know about how this works? What would you as a user want to know about the documentation? This is one of the processes where I feel like you can get a lot of insight into how our functions work. And then you can also start to get real mad about how badly some functions are documented. Right, so what is our description? You can kind of copy this from the book, but create APA formatted text for the results it says independent samples. That's wrong. Paired samples t-test in the following format. Okay, so if you have just one paragraph of description, you can just do this. If you want more than one paragraph of description, if you skip a line here, it creates a new paragraph. But actually, if you don't tell it specifically, it'll put this part into the details section. We don't need a details section. So what we're going to do is explicitly say, oops, that this is a description. Hopefully RStudio is also giving you these helpful autocompletes. So if you type the @ symbol, DE, and tab, it gives you the various roxygen documentation symbols. So we're going to make the description here, just so that we can have 2 paragraphs in our description. And then what we can do is, I want to have in the actual description, what is the output going to look like? So it makes it easier for people to understand what kind of text do they need to put for DV level 1 and level 2. But this is gonna cause a problem later because curly brackets, they're a markdown thing. They have a special meaning in markdown, and roxygen will interpret all this as markdown. So if we want literal curly brackets to show up in our documentation, we have to escape them. So we put a backslash before each one. So you get a backslash all of the curly brackets, which is tedious here, but it gives you guys a chance to try to get this into the right format. Okay, so this bit under description now is going to be the text that goes right here in description. Right, now our next part is to define our arguments. Arguments all start with this at param. Cool thing about this is if you add some more arguments, let's say you at some point decide to allow people to define what the alpha is for their test. And we're going to set like a default of 0.05. But this will now be alpha instead. And so it can be user set. You can just go in here and add it in param alpha. But you can also just put your cursor back here inside of the function, go back to insert roxygen skeleton, and it will add in any arguments that you've added to the function, because that's a really common thing to do is create a function and then later you think, oh, I want to add another parameter so I can customize this thing. And then you're gonna go and edit the function. You've hopefully already created the documentation for it. And then you just pop this back in. Okay. Yep. All right, so how do we define the arguments? The best way to learn how to define arguments is to look at argument definitions in related functions. So here we're looking at the student's t-test help. And it has an X and a Y argument. So it's permissible to copy here and often useful because then it makes it really clear. The X and Y in your function, they're the same thing. They're going to be passed on to the t-test X and Y at some point. So we've got a non-empty numeric vector of data values. We can just copy that. And put that here. So you just put a space after the parameter name. So we've at param space, the parameter name space, and then the definition all in one line. And for our particular case, Y is not optional because this is definitely going to be a paired samples t-test. So we're going to not say that it's an optional. And then we might want to add in a little bit of extra information here. So X is for level 1. So these are the values for level 1. And these are the values for level 2. And again, this sort of defining the parameters, the amount of detail you put in there depends on who's the package for, how complex is the argument here. All right, so then DB, we can describe as the text describing the DB. No, cannot spell today. The DB in the output statement, maybe output text. So level 1 is the text describing level 1 in the output text. And level 2 is the text describing level 2. And if you've added alpha, this is alpha for determining significance. All right. Sometimes I put in here if I think it's going to be useful for a person who's reading the documentation, what the defaults are, but you should be able to see the defaults. Like here in t-test, it says right here, mu equals 0. This will again depend on your audience. There might be people who are reading this who aren't as familiar with help text and might not know how to look over here to see what is the default. All right, so got our arguments section done here. Then the return value. So this is just a description of what does the function return? Does it give you a data table? Does it give you a character string? Does it give you a vector? Sometimes functions return like a complex list that's a list full of various different things. So with t-test, under value, it's a list with class h-test containing the following components. And then here's a list of all the things that are in the t-test object list that you get back. Here, we're just returning a character string. So we can describe that just as a character string. Or we can put a little bit more detail in there and say, like, of the results text. Is it preferable to capitalize the first word in the parameter description? So in base R, they have not done that for the t-test, even though there's a full stop at the end. And I feel like these two things should go together. Like you should have a uppercase first letter and a full stop, or lowercase first letter, no full stop. I'm just sort of copying their format at the moment, but it is up to you whether this should have an uppercase first letter or not. It's gonna be printed out like this. Let's make them uppercase. I think they look better uppercase, but that's up to you. Again, I think the best thing to do is kind of learn from the help documentation of functions that you find to be particularly well documented, and then just copy those. A lot of the tidyverse stuff is pretty well documented. Where are we going here? Next line is export. So the export, this is the @export thing, means that you want this to be a function that other people can use. It's going to be exported into your package, and people using the package can use it in the normal way. You can have internal functions that you don't export. So down here around 0, we might choose to not export that we don't want other people to use it, but we want to use it. It's like a helper function for us in our package, but it's not meant for other people to be able to use. And that means you can use it here in your own functions, but it won't show up in the list of functions for the package itself. And if you want it to be an internal function, you just don't put the export line in. And then examples. I think examples are probably the most important part. That's what I always scroll straight to when I have questions about a function. I just go look at the examples and what are the examples? So the examples should be something that runs on their own. So if you can't run the examples without like first loading in a data set that only you have on your computer, you can't have that as an example. CRAN won't take your package, it'll fail all of its checks. It has to be something that actually runs. Here, you can also, in our studio, there's a link to run the examples. The examples themselves aren't actually run unless somebody clicks that. They're just shown to the user, and the user should be able to expect to be able to take the examples, copy paste them into their own console, and that they would work. They would give the person a demonstration of how your function works. So our studio has this bit where you can run the examples in this window, but some people interact with not through our studio and wouldn't have access to that. So they would just see this bit, and you want them to be able to like just do that. Say, okay, I'm going to run this, in the console and see what happened. And then it tells you the p-value is supposed to be 0.00001855, which yes, it is. Right. So the way to write good examples is to write, first of all, a very simple example. I get frustrated when I go to try to learn how does a function work, and then the actual example is ridiculously complex and requires me to understand matrix algebra in order to understand and run it and get what's happening. So your first example should be the sort of, how does the function work with as few arguments as possible? So let everything that has a default argument, don't set those. And also that they should be decently documented. So you see here, we've got comments that start with hash marks. So you've got your roxygen documentation hash, the single quote and a space, and then you put another hash for your comment that's going to show in the documentation. And the first one is going to be use generic text. So this is where we don't replace the DV level 1, level 2. Right, and then you can skip a line and write your example. So we're going to use our function APA pair. And because we have this built-in data set, we can use the built-in data set. Because if someone can run APA pair, they must have your package loaded. So they will also have access to that data set. Another thing you can do if you need data to work on to show how the function works, you can like quickly simulate it with some base R code that simulates a small data set, or use built-in data sets from base R. But we've got our own one, so APA pair x equals self res at $f_self, and y is, we'll do self res at f_non. Okay, so this is our very short example. Let me see, I'm gonna, if you haven't already, you can load your package. So using DevTools load all full stop, or if you go into the build more load all, that works. I use the Shift Command L keyboard shortcut for that, because you load your package quite a lot during development. So that is one keyboard shortcut that is useful to memorize eventually. All right, just so that this is all loaded, so I can highlight all of that and run it. Did it actually do anything? Nope. On.
You've got comments at the front, Lisa.
Yeah, that usually works. It actually normally ignores the roxygen comments. I'm trying to figure out why it's not right now, but okay. So we can like develop our examples in a throwaway script. You want to make sure your examples actually run. So let's develop them just in an extra script over here, and then we can cut and paste them back in. So this one, yes, it's doing a thing that is useful. And the comment here is use generic text. And then we can give, I find it useful then to show people how do you use the extra arguments that have defaults. So could be something like specify the text for DV and levels. So we're just going to have the exact same function. This makes it easier for people to see, all right, that should look the same apart from these few things changed. So DV equals preferences for female faces. Level 1 equals participants who resembled those faces. Sorry, it's like a torturous way to describe these, but that's how the study was run. And Level 2 is non-self participants. Right, so we run that. That gives us, yep, our text for the other thing. As you can see, I haven't fixed my p-values yet to show p less than 0.001 when that's true. That was part of the sort of homework for last week. Yeah, I've not done the homework. All right, so we've got 2 examples. We could come up with more, but I feel like this pretty much explains what's going on. Somebody would understand how to use the function based on these examples. So we can copy them here, and let's see if I do this. Okay, it is not putting these in. Does everybody know how to do this thing? So it's like magic. On a Mac, it's you hold down Control and the Option key, and then you just use the down arrow, and you can do multi-line inserts. I'm not sure if it's Control Option or what on a PC, but anyways, you got to add those in.
Hey, Lisa, are these meant to go underneath the examples rather than underneath X?
Yes, they are. Thank you. So let's cut that, pop it under examples. Thank you. We were getting, again, I could pretend that I was going to get that error message on purpose, but I wasn't. I just messed it up. All right, so fix typos. So quick overview, we've got our title, our description. If you have even more details, like so here in the t-test, there's this extra details bit that explains what's going on with the alternative, etc. So if you had details, skip some lines, at details, and then every paragraph that you put underneath here before the parameters goes into the details section. And these things you can write using Markdown for any formatting. We don't really need any details here today, so let's skip that and save this. Oh, Tom, did you not know about Control-Alt? It is magic. One thing is, if you can't do it, if it's like just not working for you, sometimes it's because you've got other programs on your computer that are using those keyboard shortcuts and overriding. So I have this, what is it called? Magnet package that I can do this with keyboard shortcuts, like make things full screen, put it in the left, the right, top, bottom. I can switch it between screens with keyboard shortcuts, but it was overriding a bunch of keyboard shortcuts that I needed for our studio. So I had to change its keyboard shortcuts so I could use that, the magic keyboard shortcut for multi-line editing. All right, so we're good here. We've got this like throwaway file. We don't need that anymore. So get rid, don't save. Save this. So we've got documentation. Now we need to automatically create the document, the manual files that make this sort of documentation. So if you go under here, under the build tab, document, so more and then document, that runs this. The rocklets equals RD collate namespace bit is actually not required. So if you're a person who likes to manually type things, just DevTools document is fine. You don't need the rest in there. That is the default. So you can see when I first ran it up here, it says updating documentation. It'll load your package, and then it writes, because we had never before written the documentation for APA T-pair. It's now writing APA T-pair. It's adding this to the namespace. Don't worry about that. And then the documentation is completed. When I ran it again over here, it just says it's going to update. It loads things, and then it says nothing else, because it didn't need to make any updates to the manual. So it has done nothing. So if you're not sure if you've run documentation, just go ahead and run it again. If it does nothing, then you had run it before. All right, so all we need to do is load our package. And we should be able now to look at APA T-pairs documentation. So it might take a second to render the development documentation. And this is one part where it might not work for you if you don't have basically the tools to create PDFs. So let me know if that goes wrong. So let's get everybody who is following along to this stage and let me know. So in the chat, thumbs up or it worked if you can see your documentation, and please help if it didn't. Oh, good. We're having lots of it works. All right, but for like the recording purposes, if you are at home and it did not work, the main reason is you might need to install LaTeX. So the Tiny Tech. If you install Tiny Tech and then check if your packages are installed. No, not okay. But look up the documentation for Tiny Tech. Make sure you have a LaTeX installation, because the rendering of these involves turning this into PDFs. And if you can't make PDFs on your computer, you might get stuck here. Okay, it looks like nobody has run into big problems yet. So the next thing we can do is, I think, like, you learn how to do something and then go do it again right away to make sure that like you consolidate what's happened. So let's document our helper function. You should have round 0 here. So we just go back and you can document more than one function in the same file, as long as the documentation just goes right before the function. So maybe we can skip a few more lines for clarity. Back into code, insert the roxygen skeleton. And let's see, who's got suggestions? What should we title this? Don't cheat and look at the solution on the in the book. So somebody type in the chat like a decent title for this function. Custom rounding function. All right. And what function should we look at to model our help after our documentation? Yeah. So let's have a look at round. Because we're doing many similar things to round, we should probably describe our variables similarly. So what do we say that this function does? What's our general description of the function? So let's make him pop one in the chat. All right, so yeah, rounds a number and returns a string with the required number of digits after the decimal point. Perfect, let's pop that in. Returns a string with the required number of digits after the decimal point. Maybe we add in includes trailing zeros, because it's the trailing zeros bit that is super important. Trailing, no, zeros if applicable. Because this is what makes it different from our normal round function. In addition to it returns a string, not an actual number. So let's just copy the arguments stuff. So, or maybe not. So X is a numeric vector, or for rounding signif, a complex vector. Let's ignore that. And we'll just say a numeric vector. Should maybe check and see, does this actually work on a vector? Or does it need to be like a vector that has length greater than 1? In fact, let's round 0. 1.5 to 2, that works. And then if this is an actual vector, okay, it does work on a vector. Awesome. Lots of things in R just vectorize themselves. Okay, so digits is, we can copy that again, integer indicating the number of decimal places to be used. We can get rid of, this is documentation for more than one function. So round is actually, they did the documentation for ceiling, floor, trunk, round, and signif all together because they're related concepts. If your package has a bunch of functions that are really closely related, like up here, we've got APAT pair. If you also had APAT independent, and it also had X and Y and DV and level 1, level 2, and alpha, there's a way to combine the documentation. So they both share the same documentation, and then you just have little bits of the description that say what might be different between these closely related functions. So you don't have to keep writing the exact same documentation over and over again. We won't learn how to do that, but it is explained in like the best book for R package development by Hadley Wickham called R Packages. I think Jenny Bryan's also co-author on that one. Their section on function documentation goes into all of these advanced topics and documentation. All right, so we just need to get rid of that bit because we're only doing rounds, not signif. Integer indicating the number of decimal places to be used. We use uppercase A. Do I need to insert? Okay, so you don't have to put at description if there's just one paragraph. So that doesn't skip any lines. If it's just one paragraph of text, that is the description. And then any further paragraphs are the details. And then you can skip the at description, at details markers. You can put them in if it like makes things clearer for you. But I tend not to. And most of the like documentation code that you look at won't do that either. All right, so what are we returning? Let's have a look at, so if you see here in the round function, we've got description, usage, arguments, details, nothing, there is no return. Some people just delete that and they don't say what it's going to return. I always like to put it in though. I think it's nice to tell people what can they expect to get back from this function. So what are we going to get back? Is character string. Actually, I'm going to look at the solution here. Character string of the formatted X values. Value, there may be more than one value. Okay, and then this one, we're not going to export it. This is going to be just a helper function. Nobody else gets to use it. You could change your mind and actually export it and let other people use it. In which case you would want to write examples. But if you're not exporting something, this is annoying because I like to have examples because it reminds future me, how do I use this function? You're not allowed to have examples if you're not exporting something. It'll cause a warning when you do checks. So if it's not exported, no examples. So we can save this and then we go back to document everything again. And it should say writing round 0 because that's the new one you've added. And then we can load our package. And because you've loaded it, you're in the development environment. SharePoint, no. What? Go away. Deny. Okay, I'm just gonna put that on another screen and ignore whatever's going on with SharePoint right now. Right, so this documentation, you can have a look at it, but if you've installed the package, now round 0 is going to be a non-exported function. So let's, hold on, I've just, do you all see backslashes for the normal brackets? I'm not sure. Let's see if we can put normal brackets in here. In brackets. So the backslashes are to escape characters that we want to literally show, but what would otherwise not show in Markdown because they're special Markdown characters. So the square brackets are the start of like link text. So if I put a URL in here, that would be a link. But I think it'll show them if it isn't set up like a URL. Save that document. It's writing there. Let's load and have a look again. In brackets here does not have brackets. So yes, I do have to escape them. And then I'm gonna document. So I'm using keyboard shortcuts for this. Load. And okay, now I can see the brackets. Yeah, so basically this is the way you figure it out is write it, run the document function, load it, have a look, and see what happened. So I'm going to get rid of that, save it, document, load, there we go. And then that will go away. Okay, so what we're going to do now, we're loading. So we're in our development environment. We're only able to use our package in this session of this project, right? But I want you to see what it looks like if you've actually installed your package now. But first we're gonna run the check. Now let's hope this works for everyone. If you go into the build tab again and just click DevTools check, it's gonna give you a lot of text. And as long as it's kind of gray and blue and black, you're fine. And that there's little green check marks everywhere. So we're waiting to see. Okay. All right, so I've got 2 notes. These are not big deal notes, but they are something I forgot to do. All right, so where it says no visible global function definition for t.test. What that means is it doesn't know what package t.test is from. It's in one that's always loaded. It's actually in the stats package. So if a function is in base R, you don't need to say that the function is in base R. But if it's in the stats package, you do need to say. So what we need here is stats : t.test. So that now we've told it where is the t-test function coming from. And then SD is also from stats. So let's figure out where do we, here we are, SD, and it's not grumpy about mean. Is mean not from stats? Nope, mean's from base R, but SD is from stats. So every function that's not a base R function, you need to preface with the package it comes from. So the command check will let you know if you mess that up. Also, if you're using things from another package, you need to add that package to your imports list. So the list of what dependencies does your package have? What other packages have to be loaded, available alongside your package for your package to work? So it's another function from use this. Use _ package. And we're stats. So that just, it does a thing for you. The thing that it does is in your description file, add stats to your imports. It also sorts out something in your namespace, or no, it's not, okay. You never edit the namespace file. That all gets automatically done. Right. So let's save this. And then rerun our check. This is how long it takes for a very, very short package. This can take quite a while for longer ones, but hopefully you've also got 0 errors, 0 warnings, 0 notes. This is like the loveliest thing ever to see as a package developer. So we are now good to install our package. You just click the little install button, and everything should go smoothly if your package checks worked. All right, so it restarted your R session, so your environment should be clear. If your environment is not clear, that means that you need to go to the preferences and turn off this sort of thing. Do not restore our data into workspace at startup. It's the worst default. Right. So now we've got library demo package. If you want to run something like APA tpair, that should just pop up. I don't know, I'm just gonna, okay. Sorry, I'm just making up numbers to put into APA tpair. So you see it, this will be working. But if you try to use round 0, it's not gonna be able to find the function because you've not exported it. It's not an available function for other people. There's a secret way to get to it. Is type your package name. So demo package and 3 colons. 3 colons means look at the secret functions. It's like an extra power that you have now to be able to find other people's secret functions, but you are not allowed to rely on those secret functions. You can't use other people's internal functions in your package. If you are wanting to do something like submit it to CRAN, CRAN will say no, that you're not allowed to use internal functions because developers are not meant to make sure that their internal functions are useful for other people. They could change the way that they work without notice. So they don't let you rely on how other people's internal functions work for the function of your package. Right, is this working for everybody? If it is, then that is it. I just take any questions that people have about this. All right, undefined exports. Is it ever possible to completely hide a function in an R package you make? This one I can answer quickly, Sam, and the answer is no. Your package has to provide the actual code for other people to run. R is fully open source. Everyone can see all of your functions. You cannot hide the function. You can make it really hard for people to understand what's going on with your function by writing it in C. I am not going to show you anything about that because I also am not very good at writing functions in C, and use RCPP to import them into R. So you can make it hard for people to understand what's going on, but you can't hide it from them. All right. Silsha, what is a heck prob?
That was meant to be a check prob, not a
Oh,
hex.
okay. Sorry. I shouldn't figure that out. No visible binding for global variable self-res at. Okay, so self-res at sounds like it's not being properly documented. Do you have in your R folder self-res at.r containing all of this stuff?
Yep. Yep.
Okay, there's likely to be a problem with that. We'll do some screen sharing. I'm gonna kind of clean up the generic problems, and then I'll turn off the recording and do specific problems. Is there a way to import package for the use in package code to avoid writing package fun every time without exposing it to the user? There is one way. Like, should I tell you about this? Okay. I'm going to remove from here the stats bit. All right, so we are no longer defining t.test with stats. And then I'm going to, this is going to be tedious, but we got to run the check again, because it's going to show you a little bit of text that is a suggestion for how you deal with this. Okay, it's put it up, okay. So what it actually suggests to you is consider adding import from stats t-test to your namespace file. This is a little bit of a red herring because do not ever edit your namespace file. You are not allowed to edit it. But we can copy this import from it and we can put it, oh goodness, I do this so seldom. That I might actually need to look at documentation for it. In fact, yes, let me look at the documentation for it. So I am going into the overview here, our packages by Wickham, and then import from, there we go. Dependencies, what is your package name? How do I do this? Imports. Okay. You need the @ symbol in front. Okay. Where do I put it? I'm not sure. Let's just put it after export. @ import from and see if that works. And that allows you to use t-test from stats without putting stats : before it. The one thing this is really useful for is ggplots, everything basically, but like having to put ggplot2 : in front of every single specific ggplot function, like the AES function and all of that, can get really tedious. So a lot of people import several of the functions directly from ggplot2. Let me see if that works. We have to run the check again. The other thing that people often do this for is the Magritter pipe. So if you want to be able to use the Magritter pipe in your package, because you can't really put Magritter : pipe, that would be weird. Okay. What's going on here? Checking. Oh, do I need to run document again? There's no package called stats. All right, I will add this to the chapter. I'll figure out how to explain how to do this and add it to the chapter. But the useful thing here, if you want to use the pipe, like the because the base R pipe I love, but it's only available in R 4.1 or higher. And you can only use the underscore pronoun in 4.2 or higher. And the underscore pronoun isn't as useful as the dot pronoun for the Magritter pipe. If this makes no sense to you, don't worry about it. It means that you don't use the Magritter pipe and you're not going to want to do this. But if you do love the Magritter pipe, use this. Use pipe. And export true means you're including the pipe so that if people load your package, if they install your package, they can also use the pipe. In like the pipe becomes available to them even if they don't have Magritter or dplyr loaded. If you set export to false, then you can use the pipe in your code, but it doesn't export the pipe for other people to be able to use. So what this does is create you a new file called utils-pipe. And it just sets up the whole weird stuff that you need in order to be able to use a function from somebody else's package without prefixing it by the package name. So again, I will add this, how to import the Magritter pipe and also how to import other functions without having to use the package name : I'll add that to the book or link to somebody else who explains it, because I obviously don't explain it that well. Xenia, will that expose t.test to the user? I'm not quite sure what you mean there. Like t.test is exposed. Oh, do you mean like, will it because t.test is already in a package that's available to everybody. But yeah, if you were importing, that would be like the pipe. If it were in another package, that would make it available to other people if you export it as well. Like what we're doing here with the pipe. Let me see if there's. Oh, Tom Beasley, thank you. That is probably, it's the import from. I do import from stats t.test. That, yes, because the roxygen style looks different from what it's going to insert into the namespace. And here, let's, hopefully this will work. It's not giving me errors yet. All right, that worked. Thank you, Tom. Yeah, so if you want to be, if you're using a function repeatedly and you really don't want to have to put the function name before it, directly import it. But it is generally best practice to not do that and just put the function name before it, or the package name before the function. All right. Cecilia, I'm gonna get to yours, and Daniela has a problem with package or namespace load failed for demo package. You have an undefined export of the roxygen starter. So we'll figure out what happened with that if you stick on after this. I'm gonna turn off the recording now unless anybody has, oh, you had a syntax? Awesome, that I figured it was a syntax error somewhere. Great, so thank you everybody for turning up this week. Hope to see you next week. And recording is gonna go off as soon as I can find the button.